Live from WRAL News Headquarters in Raleigh, your number one source for local news. WRAL News, coverage you can count on.
I'm tracking a huge system that's coming across the southern part of the country headed toward us. Tomorrow's a WRAL Weather Alert Day. I'll show you how much rain we'll see and when it starts.
Also, a 19-year-old college student is charged with impersonating an EMT not once, but twice. We'll share students' reaction.
And new at noon, Raleigh police have identified a pedestrian who was killed by a pickup truck earlier this morning.
Tomorrow is a WRAL Weather Alert Day. A potent storm system arrives tonight with heavy rain and a chance for severe storms. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ken Smith.
And I'm Michelle McConaughey. Renee and Jeff have the afternoon off. Thanks for joining us. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner is in the WRAL Severe Weather Center with a look at the timeline for tomorrow, Elizabeth.
It is likely to start tonight and last through most of the day tomorrow, but a lot of different elements will come with it tomorrow. We have a level 1 and 2 risk for severe storms. I'll show you the outline of that. The timing, we'll start with heavy rain in the morning, enough so that we could have some minor flooding. That tapers off early afternoon, and then during the evening, we'll see a line of thunderstorms, which could bring gusty winds, possibly some wind damage, and isolated tornadoes, potentially in our southern counties. This is where it is right now. A huge line of thunderstorms stretching all the way from Alabama back to Texas almost, and several severe thunderstorm warnings currently happening along this line. But it is down to the south. It is way south, and everything north of that is fairly stable. And there is certainly the possibility that when we see rain tomorrow morning, and it is on the cool side, that we remain stable. But it's also possible that we see some of that instability sneaking into the southern part of our viewing area and bringing us that chance for some thunderstorms that could produce damage. So parts of Sampson County, Cumberland County, Hoke, and a little bit of Moore County are in that level 2 risk, which is where we'd have a better chance of seeing some severe storms. And then the rest of us are in a level 1 risk, which would be just an isolated potential. We do have some sunshine that's breaking out across our area right now. We're looking at a little bit of that. But then, of course, we see the clouds thickening up and we see rain overnight tonight. That rain really picks up in intensity between 6 and 8 o'clock. You see the yellow and orange color contours. That's where the rain is heavy. That continues up until around 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Well, positive 5, this is where the cold front starts to approach us and forms a bit of a line, mostly east of the triangle. That's where we'd have the best chance of seeing any severe storms, and it's out of here at around 8 a.m. Again, that rain in the morning is going to be heavy. I'll show you how much you might see where you are coming up.
Elizabeth, thanks. A student at Wake Technical Community College is charged with impersonating an EMT and providing first aid to North Carolina State University students at an off-campus party. Police say it happened twice this week before 19-year-old Kenley Fuller was arrested Wednesday. WRAL's Chelsea Donovan following this story and joins us live from the NC State Police Headquarters. Chelsea, good afternoon.
Yeah, so according to a spokesperson for the NC State community, NC State as well as Raleigh police were notified about a man who identified himself as a licensed EMT who was rendering first aid to students at an off-campus party earlier this week on March the 1st. Now, this is video of that home where the party occurred on Neal Street, just steps away from campus. Now, according to NC State's police report, they note more than 500 people were at the party and people blocking the street, as well as a student found unconscious, taken to the hospital, and many underage alcohol consumption violations. Police then followed up on the investigation at a sorority house off campus. That same subject, Kenley Fuller, was alleged to have misrepresented himself a second time to the same group of students while they were at that secondary off-campus location. Now, Kenley Fuller, a Wake Tech student, also a City of Raleigh employee, was identified and arrested for 1 count of misdemeanor stalking and 2 counts of impersonating a fire and EMS personnel. We talked to a couple students that live right next door to where that party occurred.
I guess we got to ask the EMS now for an ID number or badge number or something, I guess. I mean, that's the people you kind of rely on too, you know, cops and EMS and stuff. You get in trouble, you know, they're there for you.
Now, Fuller did bond out of jail. He's due back in court next month. Here at NC State, the spokesperson wanted to reiterate that there is no threat here on the campus or the broader campus community at this time.
And that's good news. Chelsea Donovan reporting. Chelsea, thanks.
We have a sad update to an early morning crash in Raleigh involving a pedestrian. Raleigh police say 58-year-old Charles Thomas has died. The accident happened around 1:30 this morning on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard near Quarry Street. Our breaking news tracker was on the scene as police investigated there. Police say Charles Thompson was walking across the road when he was struck. Officers say the area was not lit and Thompson was not using a crosswalk. He was taken to the hospital where he died from his injuries. No charges have been filed against the driver, but the crash does remain under investigation. And a man charged with killing his 20-year-old wife could take the stand today in his own defense. Another hour of the Raleigh police interview with Eric Hernandez Mendez was played in court yesterday. This was after his wife of just 5 days, Christina Matos, disappeared. If convicted, Hernandez Mendez would face life in prison without parole.
President Biden is preparing for a rematch with former President Trump in November, and at times his State of the Union address resembled a campaign rally. He delivered a passionate speech last night at the U.S. Capitol. He covered major issues facing the country, including improving the economy and preserving democracy. With the Vice President and House Speaker Mike Johnson sitting behind him, Biden pressed House Republicans to pass aid for Ukraine as well as funding for Israel. He announced plans for a new port in Gaza to allow humanitarian aid to reach the war-torn region. He also called on a bipartisan national security bill to protect the southern border and vowed to protect reproductive rights.
If you, the American people, send me a Congress that supports the right to choose, I promise you, I'll restore Roe v. Wade as the law of the land again.
Protesters gathered outside the Capitol building over Biden's handling of the Israel-Hamas war, and he faced heckling inside the chamber as well, including from there, you see right there, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Senator Katie Britt of Alabama gave the Republican response. She criticized Biden's age and policies, saying a change is needed.
What we saw was the performance of a permanent politician who has actually been in office for longer than I've been alive. One thing was quite clear, though. President Biden just doesn't get it. He's out of touch. Wife and mom.
Britt argued President Biden inherited the most secure border of all time, but undid all of former President Trump's policies. And Governor Roy Cooper praised Biden's address, saying, quote, President Joe Biden's record is clear, fighting for regular working folks and making our country stronger. He showed Americans tonight that he means business.
And I'm Brian Schrader, the WRAL Live Center. Former President Donald Trump has posted a civil bond in the E. Jean Carroll defamation case. This is the document filed in a New York federal court this morning, and you can see the former president's signature right there. This is a $91.6 million bond in that case, and basically it guarantees payment if he loses the appeal. You remember in January, a federal jury said that Mr. Trump defamed Carroll when he denied raping her, saying that she was not his type, and accused her of making up the allegations in order to sell books. They awarded her an $83 million award in that case. The former president faces another deadline later this month. He has to put up another $454 million in that New York Attorney General civil fraud case.
Today, we'll learn the next steps in the legal challenge against voter ID in North Carolina. A hearing today will determine whether a single judge or a three-judge panel will hear the NAACP's case challenging the state's constitutional amendments for both voter ID and income tax cap. This case began in 2018 when the NAACP challenged the constitutional amendment ballot question, saying a racially gerrymandered legislature does not have authority to change the state's constitution. The state Supreme Court agreed in 2022.
The U.S. Bureau of Labor says the U.S. economy generated 275,000 jobs in February, easily surpassing the 198,000 that economists predicted. Now, despite the rosy figures, some economists see some troubling signs in the labor market. Unemployment currently sits at 3.9%. Many industries have cut back on hours, and temporary jobs have also been reduced. Jerome Powell says the Fed is not far from being able to cut interest rates. In testimony before a Senate committee, and the Fed chairman said policymakers, they want to first be confident inflation is getting down to its target of 2%. The Fed meets later this month, but is not expected to cut rates then. Many are anticipating a series of rate cuts beginning in the middle of the year.
GKN Automotive plans to close its Roxborough plant. The company says the plan is to consolidate its North American in machine and assembly operations in Alamance County this year. About half of the 475 employees at the Roxborough location will have the opportunity to transfer to the Alamance County site. The company will be offering support to the affected employees through this whole process. Rocky Mount firefighters say a huge recycling plant fire is now 100% contained. This is an aerial view of the fire from Sky 5. This all started about 11 Wednesday night at the Rocky Mount Recyclers plant. Firefighters aren't sure what started it, though. No one was hurt, and firefighters say the fumes are not toxic.
Today is International Women's Day. At home and abroad, women are calling for changes to gender inequality as they mark the day. In Manila, demonstrators called for an end to sexual harassment in the country. France used the occasion to inscribe the right to abortion into its constitution. The Justice Minister used a 19th century printing press to print that amendment into the Constitution at a ceremony today. France is now the first country to guarantee those rights in its constitution. And thousands of women and many men marched through Rome today against discrimination and gender violence on women. Some feminist groups are calling for a national strike against temporary contracts. Other messages focused on those suffering in Gaza due to the war.
Next at noon, the wheels falling off a United Airlines 777 jet on takeoff. The investigation into how it happened.
Also, this massive fire consumed a cardboard warehouse in New Jersey. How long it took for firefighters to get this blaze under control.
And around this time Monday, mobile sports betting will be legal in North Carolina. We'll take a look at how the sportsbook for the Carolina Hurricanes will work.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.
The FAA is investigating after a United Airlines flight had to be evacuated at Bush International Airport in Houston this morning. This is the second issue United Airlines is dealing with in less than 24 hours. The flight from Memphis landed around 8 o'clock this morning and was taxiing to the terminal when it somehow ended up in the grass. All 160 passengers and crew members were safely evacuated and bused to the terminal.
Well, Michelle, as you just mentioned, United also dealing with another issue. The FAA and the NTSB investigating what caused a tie to fall off a United Airlines flight as it took off from a San Francisco airport. That wheel hit cars in the employee parking lot below. The flight made an emergency landing in Los Angeles. As Gia Vang reports, all 249 people on board were moved to another plane to continue their journey.
Watch the moment a wheel comes off a United Airlines plane leaving SFO bound for Osaka, Japan. Take a closer look. The landing gear was retracting when the wheel flies off, and on the ground it caused destruction for two unlucky vehicles in the employee parking lot. An airport worker our team spoke with breathing a sigh of relief. He said he parked right next to the vehicles damaged.
Parked right here.
Yes. One car away from this one.
Lucky, huh?
Lucky. Hopefully this guy got insured.
Other employees say they were fortunately held up, and at the scene moments after the wheel came crashing down, nobody was hurt.
If I were there or somebody were there, that incident happened, somebody would have got hurt.
The wheel took down one part of a fence, we're told, bouncing and damaging a Tesla before Sky Ranger caught it finally stopped in a nearby lot. The plane itself diverted to LAX and landed safely. Records show the aircraft was delivered from Boeing to United 22 years ago. So whose issue is this for federal aviation investigators, United or Boeing?
As I said, it's like you bought a Chevy 2-3 years ago and the wheel came off. Who's maintaining your car for you at that time? So this is where I think they're really be focusing on United's maintenance procedures and look at their paperwork and see where things happen. Now, if they point to a structural problem, then you're going to get Boeing involved as far as the builder of the aircraft.
A United employee took photos of the damage, and a representative for the airline says it is grateful to the pilots and flight attendants for their professionalism and the crews who assisted on the ground.
And that was Jia Yang reporting. Now, the passengers on that plane were moved to another aircraft in Los Angeles to continue their journey to Japan.
This morning, the U.S. military cleared the Osprey aircraft safe to fly again. The decision comes after a deadly crash last November that killed 8 Special Operations airmen. That was the 4th deadly crash of the unique aircraft in less than 2 years. Pentagon officials plan to institute operational limitations to enhance safety, but details on the limitations were not disclosed. Fire investigators are searching for the cause of a massive fire at a cardboard warehouse in New Jersey. Take a look at this. The fire was reported just before 10 o'clock last night. Thick smoke and heavy flames could be seen engulfing that building. Crews got the flames under control around 1 o'clock this morning. No word on any injuries.
Like it or not, daylight saving is around the corner. The system is used around the world to maximize hours of daylight. The U.S. officially passed the Uniform Time Act in 1966, but a recent survey found 63% of Americans want to do away with that practice. In fact, the medical director of the American Academy of Sleep Medicine says the Monday after daylight saving, there are more vehicle crashes and medical errors. But another specialist says the practice goes beyond statistics.
The emphasis has been in the wrong place, and nobody likes to lose an hour of sleep. However, people don't think about why are we doing it. People shouldn't focus on the loss of that hour for one day, but they have to think about the benefit.
It's hard not to focus on the loss of that 1 hour. Well, for now, the controversy as well as our clocks will keep ticking. Remember to spring forward Sunday.
WRAL celebrated our local arts community last night. WRAL's Big Night In for the Arts featured several artists, including that live performance from North Carolina's Trey Wellington. There were other memorable performances from artists like Pierce Freelon and Tift Merritt. We thank all of you for watching and donating. Your contributions helped us raise money to create healthy, vibrant communities through the arts. If you would like to see any of the performances again, you can go to WRAL.com. Something so great for such a good cause.
And Trey Wellington is absolutely amazing. On that banjo.
Yeah.
Well, turn our attention now to the forecast. It's cloudy today, but boy, is it going to change tomorrow.
Yes, it is. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner standing by with our weather alert day we're expecting for tomorrow.
That rain's going to start around midnight tonight, and it's going to be heavy tomorrow morning. That's the thing that's going to affect everybody. And of course, if we see the severe storms later on in the evening, it's only likely to affect part of the viewing area. So that heavy rain threat is for everyone. The severe threat just for our southern or southeastern counties. We're going to see rain starting again overnight tonight, and it lasts all the way through Saturday evening, at least on and off, and of course covers the entire viewing area. So let's go through. We'll start off with our severe weather threat. We have a level 2 risk down south, so that includes, say, Cumberland County, Sampson County, Hoke County, and just a small bit of Warren County. The rest of the viewing area is in a level 1 risk. Level 1 means that we could see some isolated storms that produce some wind damage, maybe 1 or 2 reports of wind damage, and then a slightly better chance in that level 2 risk where we could see an isolated tornado or a few more incidents of some straight line wind damage. Let's take a look at what's happening now, and then we're going to walk through tonight and tomorrow. We're looking at partly cloudy skies across much of the region currently, but by midnight, the rain rolls in, and that rain becomes heavy at times tomorrow morning. We'll stop there at 8 a.m., and it is widespread across the viewing area and coming in heavy, too. You can see the yellow and the orange color contours there. Sometimes that's an indication of thunderstorms because we tend to see heavy rain with thunderstorms. This is going to be heavy rain without thunderstorms for the morning hours, and it's also going to be on the cool side. So cool, heavy rain is likely to stabilize the atmosphere pretty well. So that's not a good recipe for severe storms. However, we're going to stop the rain on and off into the afternoon. It really tapers off by about 3 o'clock or so. And then we may see some additional energy that pushes up into the southern part of North Carolina. And that could help to produce some thunderstorms when the cold front comes through. So that's likely to pick up by the time we get to 5 or 6 p.m. This is 6 o'clock from Goldsboro and Raleigh down through Clinton and Fayetteville, and then by 7:30, it's starting to push out of the viewing area, pretty much out of here by around 8 o'clock. So there's still a question as to whether or not we're going to see enough instability for those strong thunderstorms during the evening, but that's going to be a worst case scenario that I just showed you there with Futurecast. So that severe weather threat possibly from 5 to 9 p.m. We'll see rain, some gusty winds that could produce some wind damage or an isolated tornado. And of course, during those times when it's really raining heavily in the morning and when that evening line comes through, you want to be inside. A lot of people are going to want to be outside tomorrow morning out in Durham at Duke because it is game day. It's a college game day day ESPN, people like to start lining up around 7 o'clock or so to get in for that ESPN show. It is going to be pouring at that point. Now, later in the afternoon, not so bad. 3 or 4 o'clock, most of that rain tapers off. And it doesn't look like Durham would be affected by that line of thunderstorms. So keep checking back just in case. We take a look outside right now. It looks pretty. Looking at partly cloudy skies currently. Temperature 61, so it's fairly pleasant. And temperatures are in the upper 50s in the north, but looking at low to mid 60s elsewhere. 66 the high today in Raleigh, 65 in Durham, and 67 in Fayetteville. We're looking at a cooler day on Sunday, 60 degrees, but we will see sunny skies. It will be on the windy side, however. And then we're looking at a nice warm up as we get into next week. Again, one of the most significant impacts from the storm tomorrow is going to be heavy rain. I'll show you how much you could see where you are coming up.
Elizabeth, thanks. Well, food that should have been thrown out was found during health inspections at local restaurants. Today at 5 on Your Side shows us the problems coming up in this week's restaurant ratings.
And months after a UNC student shot and killed his professor, causing mass panic, professors across our area are taking steps to prepare for campus shootings. WRAL Investigates Sarah Kruger shares what they are tonight at 6. And ahead at noon, another sign that Americans are feeling some economic stress. How 3 little numbers is painting a bigger picture about our wallets.
Also, chewing gum, well, lost its flavor during the COVID pandemic. Now companies are looking for ways to convince Americans to return to the practice. The new campaign, they hope, increases spending.
The White House is reviving a plan to help homeowners save money on closing costs. A pilot program will reduce the costs associated with title insurance. It's one of the biggest costs associated with closing on a mortgage. The plan calls for mortgage giant Fannie Mae to waive the requirement for title insurance on certain mortgages. The pilot program could be expanded in the future to cover more lenders. And the average FICO score for Americans fell for the first time in a decade. Those 3 important numbers tell lenders your credit risks. The new average is 717. Americans' credit scores are still near record highs. The creator of FICO scores says the drop is because of Americans missing payments and also increasing debt. Car loan and credit card payment lapses are at their highest rates in over 10 years.
Sargento is correcting the record on a recent recall that involves some cheese products. Last month, the FDA announced a recall involving several cheese products supplied by Rizzo Lopez Foods, Inc. due to a listeria outbreak. Sargento says none of its branded products sold in supermarkets were affected. Sargento says it issued a voluntary recall of products supplied by Rizzo Lopez Foods and products that were packaged on the same lines. Discount supermarket chain Aldi's planning a major expansion. The chain already has stores in nearly 40 states. The company says it will be adding 800 stores nationwide by the end of 2028. Aldi's will be investing more than $9 billion over the next 5 years on the expansion, adding new locations all across the country. A total of nearly 330 stores will be added in the Northeast and Midwest.
Coming up, sports betting officially begins in North Carolina in 3 days. We'll walk fans through the process of placing a legal mobile bet. Also,
how do all of you live with yourselves?
Furious parents react to an independent report clearing Uvalde police of wrongdoing in that mass shooting that happened at an elementary school. And heading to break, you North Carolina education winning lottery numbers.
Shot in 4K ultra high definition. Your number one source for local news. WRAL News. Coverage you can count on.
By this time Monday, you'll be able to legally bet on sports here in North Carolina. Within the last 90 minutes, we got a look at how the sports book for the Hurricanes will work.
Yeah, WRAL's Matt Talham live at PNC Arena in Raleigh, where they gave us a demonstration. Matt.
Yeah, Ken, you've probably seen all the ads bombarding you for DraftKings, FanDuel, Fanatics. Well, Fanatics is the official partner here of the Carolina Hurricanes. So you're going to start seeing the company's name all around here at PNC Arena and nearby but not until Monday, because that's when you'll legally be able to start placing bets on mobile apps and online. Now, we talked with the Vice President of Products for Fanatics, Rob Brazier, actually lives right here in the Triangle, and he helped develop the app. He showed us just how easy it is. You can go to this one front page, find all the games and players you like, the ones you follow, the ones you know, and you can simply place a quick bet. Fanatics is a newcomer in sports betting. They've only been doing this for about a year, and North Carolina is now their 16th state.
Sportsbook, and we realize that, and we've made some great investments into our product, making sure that we have everything that customers expect, as well as taking some bets of things that other sportsbooks are not doing. So by trying to do that, trying to meet the expectations, be a little different, and make it easy, fun, and trustworthy, it's really, how we plan to excite people with Fanatics Sportsbook.
And Fanatics is one of 8 companies allowed to operate here in the state right now. Outside of the tribal casinos, the law actually requires them to partner with a professional sports team like the Hurricanes here. Now, you won't be able to come to the PNC Arena and actually place a bet in person. If you've gone to other places, you may remember you see those kiosks. That's not allowed yet. The retail sports book is not available just yet. You still can come and do it on your phone, just like others. But the Fanatics and the Canes, they do hope to work together. They tell us they want to create a retail in-person sports book somewhere here, whether that would be at PNC Arena or a Backyard Bistro, which the Canes bought recently. So that is in the works. But starting Monday, through your mobile app and online, you'll be able to place those bets.
Matt, tell him a lot of people are waiting for that. Thank you for that.
2 years ago, a shooter opened fire inside Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas, killing 19 young students and 2 teachers. And now the families of the victims say a new report into the Uvalde Police Department is adding insult to injury. Kevin Uretsky shares the outrage from parents.
How do all of you live with yourselves?
Intense emotions running deep in Uvalde, Texas, as several loved ones of the 21 people murdered at Robb Elementary School listen to the results of a new independent investigation into the deadly mass shooting roughly 2 years ago.
There were many failures, sir.
City leaders tasked former police detective Jesse Prado to review the Uvalde Police Department's actions throughout that fateful day. Prado citing numerous wrongdoings, including widespread communication errors.
There was no leader communicating orders, correct?
Correct.
Prado also said authorities lacked proper equipment to respond and even blamed families arriving at the school during the attack for interfering with police.
The crowd. At times, they were difficult to control. They were wanting to break through police barriers.
Regardless of the failures, Prado's findings concluded officers didn't violate any policies and acted in good faith. He also left the meeting before families could ask questions or respond.
Bring him back!
City officials eventually got Prado to return, where families criticized why it took officers more than an hour to finally breach the classroom where the gunman was holed up.
All I heard today was it's the school's fault. It was some of the training instructors. Well, it's because y'all don't serve them, so you're fine saying it's their fault. What you're not fine saying is that it's y'all's fault.
That was Kevin Uretsky reporting. Uvalde's new mayor is expected to meet with family members of the victims to discuss the aftermath of the investigation.
And just into the WRAL Live Center, North Carolina Republican Party Chairman Michael Whatley has been elected chairman of the Republican National Committee. He just tweeted this in the past half hour, thanking the members of the RNC and President Trump for electing him at a meeting in Houston this morning. The former president handpicked Whatley for the role. Also this morning, the former president's daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, was elected co-chair.
Brian, thanks. Well, believe it or not, spring break season is here, and families all across North Carolina are finalizing their plans. WRAL's Kelsey Coffey breaks down the new information from AAA this morning, showing 30% of North Carolinians will be traveling for spring break.
AAA released new data earlier today. It shows the average price of gas here in North Carolina is about $3.22 a gallon. Just a month ago, we were paying less than $3 a gallon. But here's a look at gas prices today here at the intersection of Gorman and Hillsborough Street in Raleigh. Gas is $3.28 at that Exxon there. And then just across the street, it's still the same price at the BP. If you're headed out on a spring break road trip, it's smart to figure out where you'll stop for gas ahead of time.
Even though you're going to be paying more than you did this time last year, depending on how you plan your route, you will be able to save some pennies. So there's a ton of apps out there. AAA has one. You can get online and look and say, okay, I'm probably going to need to stop for gas here. Here's where I'll get the cheapest price per tank.
To find the cheapest gas prices here locally, head to our website, WRAL.com, and search Fuel Tracker. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News in Raleigh.
Well, the Durham school system is shifting the conversation to what's next for classified staff. The board discussed its budget priorities for next school year during a meeting yesterday. Listed in those priorities, increasing pay for classified staff to bring it up to market rate. They didn't mention what that would cost, though. Durham's interim superintendent said it will depend on the 2024-25 salary schedules. The board will meet with county commissioners next week to discuss what money it needs from the county. The interim superintendent will bring her proposed budget to the board on April 11.
Coming up, take the stress out of your day with a piece of gum. The new tactic some gum makers are using to improve sales.
And suicide deaths among female veterans are increasing, what factors experts say put women at a higher risk. For news, traffic, and the weather of the day, make sure to download the WRAL News app. We've got you covered. A new report finds thousands of children are landing in emergency rooms after taking too many melatonin supplements. The report from the CDC shows nearly 11,000 children ages 5 and younger went to the ER for taking too much melatonin without adult supervision from 2009 to 2020. Experts say it's because of a lot of supplements come in gummy form, which could make children believe it's candy. Pediatricians are reminding parents to treat the supplements like they're prescription drugs.
Some gum makers are trying to find new pitches to improve sales. Companies want customers to consider chewing gum as a stress reliever or as a way to boost your concentration. Gum sales dropped by about a third in 2020. One company is sinking its teeth into research saying chewing gum relieves stress.
Gum isn't going to fix problems. Gum isn't going to give you a significant vitamin boost or, that sort of thing. But the action of chewing gum is a stress reliever. The flavors can be mood lifters.
Market analysts say younger consumers are most likely to chew gum for fun, flavor, adventure, and cool packaging, while older consumers are looking for the health benefits.
A recent study suggests polluted air could be dragging down test scores for children in our state. Vehicles are the largest contributor to ozone pollution in the state. Diesel exhaust from school buses, it's a common source of pollution exposure for kids. The exhaust contains fine particle pollution that can pose health risks. The health risks have some schools looking to electrify their school bus fleets.
This is not a scene from Jumanji. A mob of marsupials decided to hop through and golfers obliged. Reaction to this common occurrence.
Wow. Also, Lego paying homage to the Cape Crusader. Later, the special occasion that prompted the company to create a new brick set. Welcome back as we look live at the Pinehurst Resort and Country Club. It's wise for the golfers to get that game in today because not much golfing will be happening tomorrow with all the rain we're expecting. As always, we thank you for watching WRAL News, available on Hulu and the WRAL app on your TV or streaming device.
A new report by the nonprofit group Disabled American Veterans, suicide deaths among female veterans are increasing. The organization recommends steps the VA can take, including more gender-specific care to aid in prevention.
Women are the fastest growing demographic of veterans.
But sadly, female veterans are dying by suicide at an alarming rate, increasing more than 24% from 2020 to 2021. That's 4 times higher than their male counterparts and significantly higher than the 2.6% rise for non-veteran women, according to new research conducted by the nonprofit group Disabled American Veterans.
We found that certain factors put women veterans at higher risk for suicide, things like military sexual trauma, which is inclusive of sexual harassment or sexual assault. 1 in 5 women veterans report experiencing intimate partner violence.
Substance abuse and mental health conditions related to their reproductive health are other factors unique to female veterans that contribute to their staggering rates of suicide.
And when you layer all of these things on top of exposure to things like diagnoses like combat-related PTSD, it really does become the perfect storm.
The organization's report identifying what they call critical gaps in the Department of Veterans Affairs, offering more than 50 legislative and policy recommendations to improve access to gender-specific mental health care for the more than 650,000 female veterans using the VA system, including better military sexual trauma screenings and treatment, tweaking the suicide intervention model for female veterans, and improved access for women veterans in rural areas.
We understand that some things are, not going to happen very quickly, and things might not happen overnight. Some of our policy recommendations will take some time, but others can be done pretty quickly.
The VA and
Well, that was Alexandra Hoff reporting. If you or someone you know is in crisis, call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That number is on your screen. It's 988.
Well, soaring temperatures caused by the global climate crisis having a major effect on Australia's Great Barrier Reef. Marine experts confirm a widespread coral bleaching event is unfolding. Bleaching occurs when stressed coral ejects algae from within its tissue, depriving it of food. If the water temperature remains higher than normal for too long, coral can starve and die. And that's such an unfortunate event in that marine ecosystem there.
Yeah. All right, well, we need to focus our attention on the weather here because we are under a weather alert day for tomorrow. Elizabeth Gardner has a new map just in.
Yeah, the Storm Prediction Center just pushed our risk to the south a little farther. So what that means is our northern counties are now out of the level 1, and most of our southern counties are out of the level 2. We have just the southern tip of Sampson County, a sliver of Cumberland County, and just about half of Hope County that are still in that level 2 risk. We were talking about this earlier in the newscast that, we may struggle to really see enough instability in our viewing area for there to be much severe weather. And so they just nudged it down a little bit. Keep checking back. Mike Mays will be with you this evening. We'll see if they adjust it again. And of course, Peter Sherwood with you tomorrow morning. We'll let you know how things are shaping up in terms of our potential for severe storms. But a level 1 risk does mean that we could have a few thunderstorms that produce some wind damage. So it's not a 0 chance, but typically that level 1 risk means that severe storms are not widespread. We are still likely to have heavy rain in the morning. That's going to be the biggest impact from this system. We're going to see heavy rain for hours in the morning. We could see flooding in areas that tend to flood easily. If you have a drainage ditch that tends to fill easily, or a low spot in the road that you drive through fairly regularly, that's probably a place that's going to flood tomorrow. Again, there's a small chance for some thunderstorms, mainly in the late afternoon and evening, and that severe threat would be well to the south, mostly into South Carolina at this point. Satellite and radar showing quiet weather for us right now. Of course, this is a massive looking line of thunderstorms that stretches all the way from Alabama back toward Texas through Louisiana. I mean, that is a powerful band of thunderstorms, but that instability is likely to mainly stay to our south. So we have a few breaks in the clouds right now. We are likely to see the rain arriving by around midnight, and then it's going to be heavy during the morning. This is 6 a.m. and we'll move it on out to 8 a.m. All the yellow and orange shaded area, it's going to be heavy rain, and that lasts from around 6 a.m. all the way until around 1 p.m. By 3 o'clock, it starts to break up just a little bit. But when the cold front comes through, again, we do have that potential to see that line of storms coming through our south and eastern counties. It doesn't mean just because we have a line of storms coming through that it will be severe, but it's a possibility that we could have winds up to, say, 58 miles per hour or stronger that could produce a little bit of damage. So we'll still be watching for that for you tomorrow afternoon and evening. Futurecast rainfall for us likely to be anywhere from a half an inch to an inch in the north, and then an inch and a half to to 2 inches down south. So in those areas, certainly you'd have a better chance for flooding. Our flooding risk is a medium risk for almost the entire viewing area for tomorrow. So again, those places where you live that tend to flood quickly are likely to do that tomorrow. But it would be the kind of flooding that comes up and back down fairly quickly. So tomorrow, of course, is a WRAL weather alert day. We'll see variably cloudy skies through this afternoon with mid-60s today and tomorrow. Don't forget Saturday night, we set the clocks forward, spring forward 1 hour. That means we get additional daylight in the afternoon starting on Sunday and into the rest of the week. 60 degrees on Sunday. We have some chilly mornings ahead next week. Monday and Tuesday mornings will be in the 30s, but we have some 70s coming up middle of the week in the afternoon.
Looks beautiful. Thanks, Elizabeth. Well, this video from the land down under left some golfers jumping for joy. How members there just took in this scene. As we wrap things up, here's a look at a few of the headlines we're following today.
A student at Wake Technical Community College is charged with impersonating an EMT and providing first aid to North Carolina State students at an off-campus party. Police say it happened twice this week before 19-year-old Kenley Fuller was arrested Wednesday. Fuller did bond out of jail and he's due back in court next month.
And we have a sad update to an early morning crash in Raleigh involving a pedestrian. Raleigh police say 58-year-old Charles Thomas has died.